A heavy-set officer advanced on Crockett, handcuffs gleaming in his grip, while behind him, a furious white mother hurled accusations through the rain. "She's trying to kidnap her! Somebody help! Kidnap her!" The woman, white, early 40s, wearing a beige trench coat now soaked along the hem, shoved hard against the masked black woman crouched under the awning. A black umbrella clattered to the concrete. Water splashed. The woman in the mask stumbled back, steadying herself with a hand against the slick column, saying nothing. Her breath fogged the inside of her surgical mask, and her other hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from fever. She didn't resist. She just stood there, soaked to the skin. The mother's voice was unmistakably Texan, East Texas, to be exact, each syllable dragged like judgment wrapped in humidity. Her features bore the touch of middle-class effort, thin lips painted in a shade of safe coral, crow's feet blurred by light injections, a wedding ring that spoke of obligation more than love. Her eyes, though, in that moment held one thing: panic laced with assumption, the kind that didn't need facts, just context and color. Before this moment, the sky over Dallas had already lost its clarity. It was early December, and the last remnants of sunlight had long surrendered to storm clouds. The streets shimmered in gray, holiday lights flickering faintly through rain-drenched windows. Cars rushed, people hurried. No one looked twice at anyone else. Jasmine Crockett had just left a budget hearing at the State House, a grueling 3-hour battle over public school funding for minority districts. Her voice was hoarse. Her sinuses burned. The low fever from the night before had settled like cement behind her eyes. Still, she'd pushed through every rebuttal, faced down every smirking remark about equity overload, and dissected every comma in a budget proposal that had sliced after-school programs in black neighborhoods. She hadn't slept much. She hadn't eaten. She just needed to grab some cold meds and breathe. She had declined an interview outside the courthouse steps. "Representative Crockett, what do you say to critics calling this a racial overcorrection?" "I say I need to rest," she'd replied, pressing her fingers to the bridge of her nose. "And I'll respond when I'm not about to pass out on live TV." She'd smiled under her black mask, waved politely, and walked away. The convenience store she picked was one she knew: quiet, suburban, majority white neighborhood. Just in and out. Get the medicine. Get home. But when she stepped back out into the drizzle, her path froze. There, under the awning, a little white girl, no more than 5, pale pink princess dress clinging to her knees, blonde curls matted to her cheeks, one hand clenched tightly around a soaked stuffed bunny. People walked past her. No one looked. No one stopped. For a moment, Jasmine didn't either. She hesitated. Her mind ticked. I'm sick. I could give her something. I'm masked, gloved. But still, she thought of headlines. Black woman approaches child outside store in affluent neighborhood. Then a whisper, barely audible beneath the rain. Ma'am, I'm scared. That was all it took. Jasmine stepped forward. She crouched slowly, cautiously, making sure her movements were soft and small. Hey there, sweetheart. Why aren't you inside where it's warm? The girl didn't answer. Do you know your mom's phone number? A small shake of the head. Okay, that's all right. You're not alone now. She popped open the umbrella, held it over both of them. The girl flinched at first, then leaned in, just enough to share the space. Is that your bunny? Her name's Lulu. Lulu looks like she's had a long day, huh? The girl giggled softly, the first sound of warmth. Are you a doctor? Nope, just someone who gets lost sometimes. Like you. Jasmine pressed the 911 digits but didn't hit call just yet. She waited, letting the girl's breathing slow beside her. She reached into her bag, pulled out a pack of tissues, wiped the child's forehead gently. Her fingers were warm, too warm. The fever was rising. She knew that, but she stayed. And then it came, a scream. Let her go! What are you doing to my child? A hand tore the girl away from under the umbrella. The umbrella hit the ground. The girl cried out, and in the space of one scream, everything collapsed. Color, context, and chaos spun together in a moment where kindness was mistaken for threat. The scream did exactly what it was meant to do. Heads turned. A couple froze mid-exit under the store's awning. A pickup slowed at the curb, its window sliding down with a mechanical whir as someone leaned out, squinting through the rain. Even the fluorescent hum of the storefront seemed to vanish, swallowed by that heavy pause that follows accusation. The white woman clutched her daughter so tightly the child whimpered, stunned. In one motion, she pulled a floral umbrella from her tote and snapped it open, shielding both of them like a last line of defense. "What did you do to my daughter?" she shrieked, her voice cracking from fear, and something harder, something older. "She's crying. She's terrified. Were you going to take her somewhere? Who the hell do you think you are?" The black umbrella slipped from Jasmine's hand, landing uselessly on the wet pavement. Rain dumped down on her full force, soaking through her blazer, her blouse, chilling the skin beneath. The surgical mask on her face began to cling to her mouth, fogging with breath, her fevered skin prickling from cold. She said nothing, not yet. Her body froze in that half-second of disbelief, fingers still curled around the phone she hadn't yet dialed. And then the little girl began to cry, violently. Not the confused sniffles of earlier, not a single frightened tear. This was raw, messy sobbing, a child system overwhelmed. She had just been safe, tucked beneath a quiet stranger's umbrella, talking about Lulu the bunny. Now she'd been ripped away, clutched, shaken, yelled around. Her body remembered fear faster than her words could. The mother heard the crying and flinched, but it only confirmed her suspicions. "Oh my God, what did you say to her?" she barked. "Why is she crying like that? What did you do?" She hoisted the child higher on her hip, umbrella still wobbling in one hand, and turned to the slowly forming crowd under the awning. Her face said it all. "Help me, this woman tried to take my child." Jasmine stood still. Her mask was damp. Her curls clung to her forehead. Her body ached from illness, from adrenaline, from restraint. She opened her mouth, but stopped. What could she say? She was alone. I was helping. She said she was scared. I was calling 911. Each sentence sounded defensible in theory, but in this moment, in this context, every word felt like it could be weaponized. If she raised her voice, angry black woman. If she whispered, suspicious. If she cried, manipulative. The truth hung in the air, fragile as mist, and the rain kept falling. The woman was already shouting into her phone, each word fired like a flare into the storm. "Yes, 408 Lake Hill Drive, right next to Elwood Market. A black woman. She was way too close to my daughter. She's crying, she's terrified. Please send someone now." Rain distorted her voice, but the dispatch didn't need clarity. Black woman, my child, crying. That was enough. 3 minutes later, blue lights cut through the fog of December. 2 Dallas PD cruisers pulled into the lot, tires spitting water. 2 white officers stepped out, hands near their belts, boots splashing on the soaked pavement. The mother ran to them, voice rising with each breath. That woman was crouched right next to her. My daughter was bawling, shaking. "Look at her. She's sick or something. Look at that mask. Who even knows what's underneath it?" The girl was still sobbing violently, clinging to her mother's coat, face red and wet, too overwhelmed to speak. It didn't matter what she said. Her tears said everything they needed to hear. The officers turned toward Jasmine, still standing beneath the rain, her mask soaked and clinging to her cheeks. "Ma'am, your name?" "Jasmine Crockett." A brief hesitation. The younger cop's brow furrowed. That name, it rang loud in some corner of his mind. He'd seen it on TV, read it in headlines. State Congress? Capitol hearings? That tone? That fire? He glanced at his partner. The older one shrugged, muttering just loud enough. "Probably not that Jasmine Crockett." "Come on, what would a sitting Congresswoman be doing here? In this mess?" Then louder. "Ma'am, we need to detain you until we sort this out." "Hands out front, please." Jasmine didn't flinch, not yet. She stood still, arms at her sides, rain soaking her collar, chest rising under the pressure of both fever and restraint. Her voice came low but firm. "There's a camera above the store entrance. It captured everything. Me walking up, sitting with the child. I was dialing 911. The older officer looked up. Sure enough, a dome camera perched just above the awning. He nodded toward the door. The younger officer entered the market. The automatic doors parted with a hiss. But inside, silence. No cashier behind the counter. No voice shouting, "Be with you in a second." Just humming refrigeration units and a flickering light above aisle 2. "Hello?" he called out. Nothing. He ducked behind the register, pushed open a half door. No one in the back. He returned outside, wiping his brow with a wet sleeve. No one's here. Place is unattended. Probably just stepped out for a delivery or break. Security systems locked. No access to the footage without the manager. And just like that, the delay became real. Jasmine's words floated in the air like vapor. Truthful, but unprovable. She had almost cleared herself. Almost. But the witness was gone, the tape was sealed, and the truth was trapped behind a blinking red light in an empty counter. The older officer stepped forward, 8-point cuffs in hand, fingers twitching like he'd done this 1,000 times before. "Ma'am, hands in front. We're detaining you for questioning." He wasn't aggressive, but there was no question this was routine. Muscle memory, another incident, another suspect. But the younger officer hesitated. He looked at Jasmine again, then back at his notes. "You said your name is Jasmine Crockett?" "That's right," she replied, voice calm despite the tremble in her knees. "As in Representative Crockett? The Congresswoman?" A beat. "Yes." A pause spread like smoke. The younger officer's tone shifted, slightly more formal, more aware. "I'm going to need you to remove your mask, ma'am. Please." Jasmine nodded and reached up with both hands. Her fingers, wet and cold, peeled the black mask from her face. It clung for a moment before letting go, revealing the unmistakable features seen on national television, in committee hearings, on the House floor. Even the mother stiffened. A flicker of doubt crossed her face. Not remorse, not quite yet, but discomfort. Still, she clung to her narrative like it was the only thing protecting her. "I don't care who she is. A title doesn't make someone safe. For all I know, she could still have traumatized my daughter. You can't just let her walk away. At the very least, I deserve an apology." Jasmine's chest rose. She was soaked, fevered, and thoroughly exhausted. But something inside her, something shaped like every time she had to smile through suspicion, explain her worth, justify her presence, refused to yield. She looked the mother straight in the eyes. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, "and I don't apologize for not walking away from a scared little girl standing alone in the rain." The woman's face twisted. "You don't get to decide that. You scared her. You can't prove you didn't." The officers stood silent, watching. The girl, now sniffling quietly in her mother's arms, looked over, eyes wide and wet. Still no words, just fatigue. The moment stretched. Then, the bell above the store door jangled. A woman burst out in a hooded windbreaker, hair pulled back in a tight bun, face flushed. "Oh my God, what is going on? Why are there squad cars in front of my store?" It was the store manager. She stopped short, eyes darting from the officers to Jasmine, then to the distraught mother, then back to Jasmine again. And then she blinked. "Wait, is that Congresswoman Crockett?" "Yes," Jasmine said, eyes still locked with the mother. The manager's voice tightened with alarm. I saw you with the little girl earlier. You were sitting with her. I remember because I was watching on the monitor before I ran to the back for inventory. I didn't know anything had happened after I stepped away. But I saw you sitting there. She was crying, and you were holding an umbrella." The air shifted, a crack in the wall of accusation. The officers turned. The mother froze. And for the first time since the rain began, Jasmine Crockett didn't have to explain herself. Part 5. The rain passed, but the world was still damp. "Can I leave now?" Jasmine asked, her voice steady, almost cold. The older officer blinked, then gave a slight nod. The cuffs were no longer in his hand. "Yes, ma'am. Apologies for the inconvenience." Jasmine said nothing more. She gave a subtle nod and turned away, not sparing a single glance back. The rain kept falling, and she walked into it like someone who'd long stopped fearing the wet, not from water, but from stairs. Each step felt heavy, like her shoes were lined with stone. Not because of the cold, but because of the emptiness settling into her chest. Behind her, the mother clutched her daughter tight. No one said a word. The police didn't move. The child? She still didn't understand what had just happened. But that didn't matter. What lingered wasn't truth, it was perception. And perception, someone once said, outlives truth by miles. That night, Jasmine developed a fever. The thermometer climbed past 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Sweat soaked through her nightshirt, even though the room was cold. She lay curled in bed, clutching the edge of the blanket, occasionally groaning. Her throat felt like it had been scraped raw. On the nightstand sat a damp washcloth, a silent phone, and the dim glow of a bedside lamp casting long shadows. No aides hovered, no meetings happened, no texts buzzed, no emails flooded in. Just silence, as if the world itself knew she needed stillness. The next morning, she didn't go to the office. No Zooms, no budget briefings, no legislative debates. Only one person was allowed into that quiet space. Chloe Jasmine's 8-year-old daughter, padded in with her iPad and a pillow printed with peacock feathers. Hair in 2 puffs, purple fleece hoodie, striped wool socks. She pushed the door gently, then climbed into bed. "Mommy, you're famous now." Jasmine turned slightly, her tired eyes cracking open. "I've always been famous to you." "No, I mean viral. For real." Chloe tapped the screen. A shaky video played. Shot from a distance, it showed a black woman in the rain, masked, flanked by 2 cops, and a screaming mother holding a crying child. No audio was needed. The image said it all. At the end of the clip, Jasmine turned to walk away. The mother, mid-rant, suddenly stopped. The camera caught a blink, a hand rising to her face, 2 silent tears falling through the rain. The internet exploded. A journalist tweeted, "She didn't shout, she didn't argue, she didn't beg to be believed. She just stood and let the world indict itself." Another said, "She won not by proving a point, but by embodying grace under fire." MSNBC ran a segment. "Crockett is the picture of someone who's been misunderstood more times than she can count, and yet never let that turn her bitter." Jasmine didn't smile, but her eyes glistened. Chloe leaned against her, whispering, "You're a good person. That's why no one could film you being anything else." The following morning, when Jasmine returned to the office, a cream-colored box sat on her desk. No return name, just a soft blue ribbon tied neatly. She opened it slowly. Inside was a brand new umbrella, deep emerald green, silver-trimmed edges, with a smooth wooden handle engraved with the words, "Stay calm in the storm." And tucked beneath it, a card, torn from a child's notebook, ink a little smudged. "Thank you for sitting with me. I was really scared that day. But you made it feel like my mom was close. I'll keep this umbrella until I'm big." Jasmine pressed the card to her chest. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. No tears, no grin. But in that moment, she felt something shift, as if the world had made a little more room for someone who didn't need to scream to be heard. Outside, the Dallas sky was still gray. But inside her, the storm had passed. But some storms don't pass unless you name them, and Jasmine Crockett knew that better than most. 2 weeks later, she returned to the State House floor, not just as a lawmaker, but as a witness, a woman who had lived through the loophole. She stood before her colleagues in a deep navy suit, notes untouched on the podium, eyes steady and unflinching. "Madam Speaker," she began, "today I rise not only as a representative of District 100, but as a mother, as a citizen, and as someone who, just 3 weeks ago, was nearly handcuffed for sitting beside a lost child in the rain." A murmur passed through the chamber. Screens dimmed, heads turned, some in recognition, others in disbelief. She continued, "We ask our law enforcement to act fast, but we've given them no consistent protocol for how to assess intent in situations involving adults and children. What happened to me wasn't rare. The only thing unusual was that the person being accused happened to be a sitting legislator and that someone happened to press record." She paused. "Let the silence stretch, heavy and deliberate. Today, I'm introducing a bill called the Clear Act short for Civilian-Led Engagement Assessment Requirement. It would require officers in cases involving unrelated adults and minors to take immediate, reasonable steps to assess the context before detainment, ask questions, check surveillance, look for nearby witnesses, not eventually, not after the cuffs. First, a few heads nodded, some shifted in their seats. Jasmine looked directly at the committee chairs. If we're afraid of accountability, we shouldn't be writing laws. And if we believe in justice, we cannot continue giving it exceptions in the name of fear or ignorance. She closed her folder without looking down. There was no applause, but no one moved. And in legislative chambers, stillness is its own kind of thunder. Outside, reporters crowded the hallway. One shouted above the others, "Representative Crockett, do you actually believe this bill will pass?" She didn't smirk. She didn't soften. She gave the kind of smile that only someone who survived the system could wear, a smile forged by fire and silence, not approval. "It has to," she said, "because if it doesn't, next time, it won't be someone walking away in the rain. It'll be someone walking away in handcuffs, or not walking away at all."